Most people will do anything to avoid being alone. They'll scroll endlessly, binge content, overwork, or fill their schedules to the brim. Not because they enjoy the noise, but because they're terrified of the silence. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, a pioneer of existentialism, said it best: "You don't fear loneliness, you fear facing who you really are." This quote isn't just poetic, it's brutally honest. Kierkegaard's insight pierces through the surface of our daily distractions and asks the real question: what are we running from when we fear being alone? The answer is uncomfortable. It's ourselves. And in this video we're going to unpack why that is. We'll explore the illusion of loneliness, the frightening yet transformative discovery of the true self, and the surprising power of solitude. We'll also tap into hidden truths from philosophy that can help you not only understand yourself better, but potentially change your life. So stay with me until the end. This might be the self-confrontation you didn't know you needed. 1. The illusion of loneliness. In our hyper-connected world, we rarely experience pure solitude. Our phones, social media, and constant digital stimulation have created the illusion that we're always connected, and yet more people than ever report feeling lonely. But Kierkegaard suggests that what we truly fear isn't the lack of company. It's what emerges in the quiet once that company is gone. Loneliness, in this philosophical light, isn't just a lack of external interaction. It's a psychological and spiritual space where we become vulnerable to the things we've been avoiding. Our unresolved traumas, our unfulfilled dreams, our moral contradictions. When the noise fades, we come face to face with all the versions of ourselves we've ignored or rejected. That's not a comfortable place to be. And so we do what humans have always done when faced with discomfort. We run, not physically, but emotionally. We fill our time with anything that keeps us from confronting that mirror. But in doing so, we're not protecting ourselves. We're postponing growth. Loneliness, redefined by Kierkegaard, becomes not a social condition but a spiritual challenge. 2. Facing the true self. To understand Kierkegaard's message, we must understand what he means by the self. He argued that the self is not something static or easily defined. It's a task, a work in progress. It's something you must become, consciously and deliberately. But before you can become your true self, you have to first meet it. That's where solitude becomes a necessary tool, even though it feels like a curse. The true self isn't the face we show to the world. It's not our job title, our social media persona, or even the identity we've built from childhood. It's the core of our being, the raw, sometimes chaotic, sometimes beautiful essence of who we are beneath all the layers. Kierkegaard believed most people live in despair without even knowing it because they never engage in the painful but necessary act of self-examination. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because when you strip away the roles, expectations, and performances, you're left with your flaws, your fears, your past mistakes, and maybe even the realization that you've been living someone else's life. That's the confrontation people avoid, not because they're weak, but because self-truth is heavy. But within that heaviness lies freedom, the freedom to stop pretending and start becoming. 3. Existential courage. Kierkegaard didn't believe that the self emerges from comfort. He believed it is forged in despair and transformed through courage. Not the kind of courage that looks like heroism on the battlefield, but a quieter, deeper bravery, the courage to look inward and not turn away. This existential courage is about saying, I am willing to face all of me without excuses. Why is this so rare? Because it demands responsibility. Once you see who you really are, you can no longer blame your parents, society, or circumstances for the person you've become. You must take ownership of your choices, your desires, your life direction. That's why many choose distraction over depth. It's easier to scroll than to reflect. But Kierkegaard warns us, if we refuse to confront ourselves, we remain fragmented, forever chasing a sense of wholeness that never arrives. But here's the paradox. Once you stop running and face yourself fully, the fear starts to dissolve. It's like staring into a dark cave and finally realizing it's not infinite, just unexplored. What you feared was not the truth, but the possibility of it. With existential courage, that fear becomes your compass, pointing you toward authenticity. 4. The secret power of solitude. Solitude is not the absence of love or meaning. It's the space where both are discovered. Philosophers from Marcus Aurelius to Nietzsche, and even the mystics across traditions have pointed to the power of being alone. Kierkegaard saw solitude as sacred, not because it was always pleasant, but because it created the conditions necessary for revelation. In solitude, you begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. You stop reacting and start reflecting. You notice the habits you've inherited, the voices that aren't your own, the values you've adopted without questioning. And in the quiet, something miraculous happens. You begin to sense who you were before the world told you who to be. That moment is the spark of transformation. Solitude, then, is not loneliness. It's intimacy with the self. And from that place of inner wholeness, you're finally able to connect with others authentically. You stop needing validation. You stop seeking meaning outside yourself. You carry it with you, silently, confidently. That's the secret Kierkegaard was pointing to. When you stop fearing the silence, you begin to hear the truth. 5. The masks we wear. One of Kierkegaard's most powerful ideas is that most people go through life wearing masks. Identities they've inherited, roles they've been assigned, and personas they've crafted to survive. He called this the inauthentic self, and warned that the longer we wear these masks, the harder it becomes to remember who we were before we put them on. From a young age, we learn that certain behaviors earn praise, while others invite rejection. So we adapt. We become the achiever to gain approval, the rebel to feel powerful, the caretaker to be needed, the perfectionist to stay safe. Over time, these roles become so automatic that we begin to mistake them for who we are. But they are merely fragments, tools we've used, not the soul underneath. When we're alone, without others to reflect these personas back to us, the illusion breaks. That's when we feel lost, disoriented, even afraid. Because if I'm not who I am at work, or online, or around my friends, then who am I? Kierkegaard's answer was both haunting and liberating. You are a self you must choose, not a role you must perform. And the only way to choose that self is to remove the masks, one by one, and face what lies beneath. Not to judge it, but to understand it. So the next time you're alone and feel that creeping discomfort, don't reach for your phone. Don't rush to fill the silence. Sit with it. Let it speak. Because in that silence, beyond the discomfort, beyond the fear, you might just meet the most important person in your life, yourself. Kierkegaard wasn't trying to scare us. He was offering us a key. The door it opens isn't easy to walk through. But on the other side is something worth the journey. A life of depth, honesty, and inner freedom. If this message resonated with you, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this with someone else who's ready to stop running and start remembering who they are. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay courageous, and above all, stay true.